about this the healing power of positive thinking. I don't joke about mental health, peoples. The healing power of thermal energy. Thermal energy, that's right. Thermal. Alright, so positive thinking. It has a lot to do with thermal energy. Positive thinking is that our sun can be and will live forever. It's very far-fetched, but it's extremely close because people are close to quantum computing, so there's a lot of things about quantum that people don't know. A lot of quantum particles, I am saying this in mostly layman's terms, or common terms, not layman's. That's an insult. Most of the time it's a science joke. Science joke. There he is. He's turning around. It's coming after me. No, he's just going in the opposite direction. Nice. In common terms, it refers to a stabilization of ionic bonds. Thermal energy is the future, and I'm not talking about your thermal packs or your thermal jackets, anything like that. I'm talking about actual thermal, like real stuff, like freaking amazing stuff and really awesome stuff that could get a lot of people really, really rich. Like, probably not me, but I'm just a lowly video game boy. Really wish he would stop and have a duel, but okay, 109, we're good. So thermal energy and positive thinking go together because of positive thinking of our forefathers, and a lot of different things. Positive thinking, even though they were killing off a lot of different people and being very sad about it, thermal energy and quantum mechanics can change that. Oh, it does. You like, and religion is like in the back of my mind, going, or in the back of my ear, probably, because they listen in on a lot of different channels that people don't know about. Mostly Netflix. Because they want to know if it stabilizes or if it breaks apart ionic bonds. Quantum mechanics can actually hold together ionic bonds and stabilize them in fission and fusion reactions. How so? Because it is a quantum equalizer. Quantum equalizer. And quantum equalizer, what it does is, it's like, imagine if you had 12 of something and you wanted to give something to someone. Like you are an ionic bond. Not technically an ionic bond, but a, what's the word? An electron, or an atom. An atom. And that atom wants to trade with another atom and one of the atoms has 12 electrons and 10 neutrons and like 7 protons, because it's unstable as hell. It's going away, crazy. Oh my god, this electron is so, or this atom is so friggin' unpowerful. It's crazy. It's like, oh my god, it's going out of control, like a car that doesn't have a wheel, and it's just like, oh my god, I can't really steer this thing. But hey, as soon as you get out of the car and realize that if you even out the distribution of not having things, you get mostly an off-road vehicle. So what quantum mechanics does for what I'm saying is, like, if you had 4 tires and one of them was out, what they would act as is they would do the opposite of this. They would actually add a piece of a tire from each thing, and then add a piece of a tire from here, add a piece of a tire from here, and then put it right here, and then you have a full set of tires. You wouldn't have what would be a full set of tires, but you would have even distribution of electrons and protons and neutrons and all that other different stuff that makes up atoms. And people don't realize this is atoms are technically like okay, it's like a thing off of Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. The reason why, I think, is because those little tiny scribbles that used to do one job, that's basically an atom, you know? That's like used to do one job and one job only. Like used to do one job and one job only. So as an atom starts to progress, it starts to degrade and lose electrons or lose protons, whichever kind of negatively or positively charged, whether it's a high pressure system or a low pressure system, and that creates and induces a lot of different storm cycles and a lot of different things. So a lot of times positive thinking can charge electrons in your brain. They can charge electrons in your brain, so when you're doing things or when you're figuring out a situation, you feel smarter. And then when you're in a low pressure system, most of the time you feel down or you feel out. Or if there's an abundance of carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide in the air, then there's a lot of chances that sometimes you feel depressed or you feel just an it feels like it's like infrasound is basically nothing, all right? Infrasound is more like a test for the ear, okay? It's not like a thing that happens in real life. Like it's not a thing, it's something the brain makes up. So positive thinking keeps away what people would call infrasound. Positive thinking can keep that away. So it seems like, oh my god, there's so many different things of people taking a whole bunch of different hallucinogenic things, and they're like, oh, they associate more reflexes with a higher way of thinking, or an existential what's the word? An existential plane of existence. So when people take something, or if they're thinking about something sad or happy or anything like that, it focuses on that thought. Like there's a dude that thinks they know they did a study on, and they wrote this in a booklet. I'm not sure, but I think I found it on the internet somewhere. So there are actually no, it was a friend who used to hang around me, and he was German, and he said he took a mind altering drug. And all he could think about was gloves, because he had gloves on. It's because it was really cold outside. So when it was really cold outside, all he would think about was gloves. So everything started to be gloves. The normal brain, usually that's what it is. That's what happens. If you're scared of everything being gloves, or if you're scared of everything happening at the same time, or something happening that you don't really imagine, or you're not really imagining or ever thinking of, but it expounds that memory cell, or it expands it for some reason, and sometimes it can burn out a memory cell. But so with positive thinking, a lot of times people don't notice this, is you can regenerate brain cells. With mostly positive thinking, people don't realize this. Is they think it's everything's all done for, and everything's all done, and all that other different stuff, and it's all for naught. But people don't realize that there's always a different way. So with thermal heating and thermal cooling, and there is thermal cooling, people don't realize is that it's not just a material, it's more of an ionic bond stabilizer. So if they were to, like, say, stabilize an equation with the thermal output or thermal input, with thermal input, it slows down reactions, and also would allow people with HIV, AIDS, cancer, all that other different stuff, if they were to have it and keep it, or have it and not be able to get rid of it, then a lot of thermal advances that are probably going to be made in the next 10 years, or not even 10 years, maybe 5. Maybe they've already been working on them. Who knows? But as they start to heat up or cool down, what thermal energy does is it creates the ionic bonds and stabilizes them. It creates the bonds of separation of electrons and protons, and then within that reaction, stabilizes and equalizes the equation. So a lot of times people don't know that there are layers to things, and they just had to add the certain layers. It's like a puzzle, but almost kind of like a where are you, you little bastard? See, what the hell, man? They're playing the whole freaking shell game and stuff. They're playing stupid games, little phone games. Are they on their phone? Because that's how they're probably cheating. The dude was like right in front of me. I didn't see him move from any tree. So there's obviously cheaters here. So let's just keep on playing. But okay, positive thinking. Positive thinking can charge and upcharge what is it? What's the word? A positive thinking can charge an electron with so much power that sometimes it overcharges, and that's where you get like the overcharge from different. You see that Fallout 4, when you can make your own ammo. They have it overcharged, and they have it they have a charge, and then for their plasma and energy guns, they have a charge and they have an overcharge clip. So an overcharge clip, what it does is it deals more damage or anything like that, or an overcharge clip and maybe like a photon or like a freaking plasma blast or something like that. What it does is it charges up particles around it. So basically anything it does, anything that hits, it kind of implodes. Like basically it doesn't explode, it implodes. So a lot of times what people don't think about whenever they think about explosions is the effect it has on our own pressure systems. There were people back in probably the 6th century that were experimenting with this kind of stuff. But luckily, I mean, Unfortunately, they didn't have their hands on the technology that we have today, I guess, because they would use it to control and rule the world because they were crazy and also hungry all the time. Because they would have done it to get food. And it's stupid to do that. Because not only are you vaporizing something and imploding it, sometimes it's not like where it goes, because it doesn't go anywhere. Technically, it just becomes quantum. Like, any implosion at all, there are repercussions to anything. So when you're dealing with all that stuff and dealing with like plasma rifles, and when those come about, because if they wouldn't be putting them in games if they didn't think of them as an option or a feasibility. So, alright, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to get over here. And that failed. Nope, didn't fail. Yay. And I failed again. Alright, but being able to create thermal energy is very hard, and it takes a lot of power. But through ionic transfer or ionic... Let's see, wait. Tis my bro. Hello? What's going on, man? I'm chilling out, man. I'm just beasting it, you know? I'm streaming right now. Drawing bearded dudes. And... I'm just chilling, I guess. I'm gonna be here. Why? What's up? Hell yeah, I want to come hang out tomorrow. It'd be so awesome. Yes, I do. I would like that a lot. Very much so. Alright, man. What's up? Okay, cool. I'll try to bring over some beer or something, okay? Okay, alright, cool. Alright. Alright, talk to you tomorrow, man. Alright. Bye. Alright, so, we're backs. We're backsies. We're backs. So, the reason why I'm saying this aloud, and I think that people should know this, or people should actually be around this, or not be around this when they're actually doing the experiments, but be around this kind of knowledge, is because I think it should be freely traded, because it's very hard to be able to make those equations, very hard to make those stabilizations, and extremely difficult to actually implement those things onto devices at the moment because of our current situation with so what I'm saying right now is technically declassified, but in the same sense, if they were to find out about it, they still wouldn't tell you. And that's what I expect from any government, because they wouldn't tell me anything in definitely anything in China. They were just trying to... They were looking for the person with the golden ticket. Yeah, it's like, it's really bad. That's really bad. It's a bad joke. It's a what's it called? It's a brainwashing joke, and I shouldn't use that because my dad uses those kind of jokes, and he gets a kick out of them because he has been in a lot of messed up situations that he has made better. So I'm gonna hook up my controller. But there are a lot of different reasons why quantum mechanics and a lot of different things that that thermal and quantum energy can do for people. That's the reason why flying cars will probably be an eventuality. Like, yeah, and a serious eventuality when people actually get to know exactly what is in a flying car. Ionic propulsion is amazing, and also positive thinking will get us there, because we can only do it with every piece of the puzzle. There are a lot of dudes in Asia that are doing some things that I'm sure would probably be very nice to know about. Understandably, there are a lot of times where, say for instance, it also would create a, what's the word? People think in religion that it's going to change the way that people see birth, or people see anything, for that matter. Yeah. They think that it has something to do with the thread of our DNA or anything like that. And I'm telling them that it doesn't. It has nothing to do with anything that is around us, only the things that we are, per se, connected to by certain things. What a lot of different religions create, I think, are notions of notions of realization and positive thinking. A lot of times I think that they can do better with their understanding of science and not realize that that a lot of things just happen around each other, not because of a reason. Well, I mean, it does happen for a reason, but the reason would be not related or unrelated, only because like these two dudes liked each other, and then they didn't want to get married though because their parents like wanted them to get married, and they just wanted to like be dudes. All right, but that's different. That's very different. So, but it's a different situation altogether. But that kind of stuff can bring people down, and it can stop people from creating cures of it not really stop them. It can't really stop them from making the cure, but in making the cure, they could very well run themselves kind of dry. So it's like it's better for the psyche to keep water, you know. But also to realize that that by keeping that water in your body, you promote better health and more positive thinking. People don't realize how much sustenance actually does for them. They don't realize exactly how much sustenance actually keeps them in, or the state of mind in which they keep themselves when they are at peace with their stomachs. With their stomachs, yeah, or their bladders, or anything basically that needs to be or filled up in some way, shape, or form. People don't realize this a lot, but got him. Got him again. So what also people don't realize sometimes is that they're on borrowed time when it comes to their location. And a lot of people don't want to leave sometimes because of their culture, and they're afraid that they'll forget it, or they're afraid that it won't be a part of them anymore because people sometimes really believe in location, and it's run into our society and sometimes into our evolution that it sometimes stops people from doing really amazing things. And the reason why I think people don't realize is that it does amazing things for people to be in a certain location sometimes is that it puts in basically a fork in the cog. Basically, it stops it from running the way that it should. Sometimes it grinds down the gears, and it will never run the same sometimes, you know. But but also too, it's not that as delicate as a flower. It's more delicate like a steering wheel is. The notches on the back of the steering wheel on a regular driving car from the like 80s to the 90s, they realized that the notches, because of the kind of rubber or kind of leather they were using, was kind of porous, and it gave a lot. So people would try to grip the steering wheel, and they wind up running into a fire hydrant. But it's not the fault of the car maker, it's the fault of the actual contractor. Because a lot of people who were making billions of dollars, they couldn't be bothered with being able to create a car from scratch, so they asked people who had already made them. And in some cases, that's not always a good idea. So realizing what other computers have done, people don't need to take into account what other computers have done. They need to start over and completely redesign it. My dad got pissed off at me for some reason, because he didn't really get pissed off at me. He more like realized I knew an idea, or I knew I had an idea, and like I'm more into computer engineering, I guess, than I am science, computer science. But that's only because I've dealt with things that are in the past and have kind of reminded me about things that I've thought about when I was a kid. And when I thought about a lot of things when I was a kid, I was kind of in the mode of take no prisoners. I was like, if people had information, they needed to give it to me. You know, I was kind of like that. But in the same sense, damn it. I was kind of like that. But most of the time, I think people didn't realize, or don't realize at all, that that the more you look at a situation, the more things you see. Okay, the more things you see, the more times you're able to understand something. Obviously, mechanics don't want to all the way constantly change their workout when they have to work on a car, or see different precautions that are their literally reflexes. And that's all good and awesome, and you keep the economy going because you don't want to push too hard at the people who are doing things. You don't want to push too hard at them because they're delicate, because it's their workforce. So I know that, but also people don't realize how easy ionic propulsion really is. It's more like a humidifier inside of a room that's going 40 miles an hour. Not exactly as that, but it's more like a humidifier that's creating that's getting high and low pressure systems, which people don't realize. The reason for high and low pressure systems, it's not just because of like radiation and a whole bunch of different things that change it. It's more because of ionic bonds, and people don't realize that a lot of times, thank you. A lot of times the more you push at those ionic bonds, the more
Is this clean or dirty?
I think that's clean. This will be clean. Is it clean? Most of the time, there are a lot of different reasons why these things like fall through. Because they're either because of contracts, because people don't want to be able to do something. They want to create like a different kind of thing. But every single region is different, and every single plant life that is different has a memory. Every single fungus has basically an ionic bond of a memory, basically, or a physical memory most of the time, that it details what has happened to it so far and what it will react to if like, for instance, in Afghanistan, the plant life is still flourishing, kind of, and things have happened. So what people were taking as they were putting like little things inside the ground, or thinking that they could make something happen or create something, like put a pencil in the ground and get a pencil plant. You can't do that. You can't do that. It's impossible. But you can create the parameters ionically, kind of with thermal radiation, and then when you create the parameters ionically, I guess you guide that sort of schematic, not through thought or words or anything like that, but with a lot of different technologies like 3D printing and digital imaging. Sometimes people don't realize this is a lot of times the science breakthroughs happen when so no one is least expecting it. So most of the time, I think what people even identify with when it comes to that stuff is shit. They think that it changes people and things and all that other different stuff. It changes stuff like it can remove water, so people look more dehydrated, or and that's pretty much it. It can remove water from different things like ionic bonds and a bunch of different stuff like that. But it can also diffuse the water around it, which is really weird. But what is diffusion of hydrogen molecules? And you ask, diffusion is like okay, diffusion is like, imagine this. Okay, you have a toy, all right? Over time, the sun kind of melts it a little bit. If you leave it outside, it's like it kind of gets melty, you know? And we have to, but also too, I think we have to realize is that our governments are just not talking to each other. Why are they not talking to each other? Because they attacked each other constantly on every angle to be able to make sure that their business could thrive the most. And that's not how you do business. And I'm not saying that we should throw it away or throw them away because they're older. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that they need to reinvent themselves. They need to reinvent the way that they think about business. They reinvent the way that they believe business should be handled. And that is the only way that we and a lot of different countries can actually get along, because that's the reason why China and India fight, because they have disagreements on what's right. They have disagreements on fundamentally, they have different disagreements on what's right. India believes that they should be something almost forever, or forever, whichever they thing they want to be. And they're always that thing. No matter what they're doing, they're always being that thing. No matter what they are, they're classified as being a messenger boy or being a person, because they think that creates a sense of purpose. And how's it going? Hey, Bill Capri, how's it going? But yeah, I'm talking about quantum mechanics, positive thinking, and thermal energy. What do you think about thermal energy? You're 13, or to my knowledge. Do you think it's like attainable, or feasible in any way? Like, I'm not talking about like just video games like that say thermal energy and stuff like that. I'm talking about like the definition of actual thermal energy. And positive thinking is going to get us there, because people know things and they're not telling people. But they're not doing it out of hate or hurt. They're doing it because they usually think they need to protect those sort of things, and not keep it to themselves, because they believe it can hurt more people than it can help, and that's usually not the case. And I am going through buildings. Squanna-doo, squanna-doo. Okay. Got an anytime scope on this gun. Let's see if anybody's here. Nobody's here. That's about to go. I need to get the car. Those are both down. Okay. So what people believe is the end all be all in that subject is nuclear fusion or fission, and they don't realize that the sun itself has the potential for having a thermal core. Thermal. It's really cool, and it's really awesome. And a lot of people don't know about it, but turn this down a little bit. So, thermal is the straightening or equaling of ionic bonds, which makes most radiation unresponsive. I mean, you get to unresponsive radiation, it's kind of like it basically kind of flows through things sometimes. Unresponsive radiation, or mostly like has a behavior all its own. There are a lot of things that can affect what is it? Okay, so there are a lot of things that can affect a bunch of different kinds of radiation, and through this, I think people should understand that thermal stabilization would be the marker of thermal stabilization would be the marker that kind of is bingo, basically, B-I-N-G-O. It's like the solve all, basically. It's the cure all of pretty much every disease, every single thing, and that's what I think people don't realize is to create an imbalance of power. A lot of people, where is it? There he is. They create an imbalance of power in society and make people think that by doing certain things, they change the outcome of an event. Like saying that that the observer of an experiment changes the outcome, and that's the point where people try to manipulate, and that's where like certain societies, they try to feed something a certain thing, like a duck a bunch of butter or something like that. It's not like our society does that. But it changes the way that other ducks react to that duck, because they know that duck has been marked for something, and they don't know what it is because none of them really see each other die sometimes. Like the same thing when with quantum or thermal energy. It's like whatever you do to that one thing creates an evolutionary trait, or not an evolutionary trait, but a quantum trait that could be multiplied, or like, say for instance, that's the reason why everybody got their what's the word that's where everyone got their nuclear energy plants and all the other different stuff like that. They got the nuclear energy plant, and they're just like, that's the thing that we want. That's the thing that we're going to deal with all the time, because nothing else works. But they don't understand that, no, something else works. It really does. And the most you should worry about it working is with positive thinking, with people sharing information, people with the right people sharing information, as well as the wrong people sharing information, as well as other people sharing information, and realizing that it has to do with kind of all of us, I guess, in this whole situation. People need to be ready for it as far as a society, as well as realize that it's pretty much about, I'd say roughly speaking, it's about 10 years off, roughly. And people have been doing research for a long time, so not to say that I've ever been a part of it, because I've only heard in notebooks and not notebooks. I've only heard in books and stuff like that. My own doodling, sometimes I think about that stuff too. So there are a lot of people that have been involved in it, and a lot of times people don't realize that they're creating a symbol to create fear, or an idol to say a warning or something like that. Like, they need to stop doing that, I guess, for us to be able to go forward, but also to realize that a caution tape would probably be a better idea, to be like, hey, watch out, you know? More like, instead of basing your reaction of someone else, or reactory senses on someone else, the more you think about the things you do, the more you look at the people in your life and be like, why are they even thinking that? Like why would they ever think that? And I think it has to do with a lot of trauma and built up aggression, but also a lot of malnourishment as well. A lot of people don't realize that they're being malnourished until they look at themselves and be like, $7 cannot get you through a day. That's something. It can't get me through a day, because there was an Instagram post that had a bunch of well, I'm gonna show you how to get to New Orleans with $7. A lot of times people don't realize that they're making a mistake before they make it, and you have to look into those into the way that they made something, or the way that they did something. Like it's not something that you do like to get through an entire city in $7, but it's just like the bargains that. Oh, are you serious? It's just the bargains that you can get for $7 that won't break the bank. And a lot of times people don't realize that they can go to certain places and get free food, like food banks and a bunch of different places that'll help them out. But that can help, I guess. Can help a lot, I think. And what people don't realize a lot of times is that they're wasting their time on people. Sometimes, I gotta get out of this, that in some cases really don't give a shit. Like it's not that they don't give a shit, but they tried to give a shit and no one cared in the first place. They were like, wow, that person wants to change something, so I'm not going to be a part of them, so I can be the people that are going against them. And when that person decides to do a whole bunch of different amazing stuff, like make a bunch of money, invest, and do a whole bunch of different stuff, I'm going to be on that person's side because that person's amazing. I know that beforehand, but I'm going to make my decision now to not be on his side because I don't care about him. But most of the time, people like that aren't the majority, and that's where I think people don't realize that our whole movie industry has been placated and moved into this era of high above me, sort of thing. That sort of thingamajig. That sort of hey, don't try too hard, or else you won't be able to get free money. That's or like, hey, make sure you don't read your books, or else You'll know too much about math and people won't take you seriously because you're a dork or something. It's just to create those kinds of situations in life that people automatically assume is real or material at all, and they don't understand that it's like this mask that people wear, or it's like a tattoo that you get that you don't actually believe in, you know, or even a protest that you think is actually helping, but it's not. It's and a lot of times people don't realize what they're doing until they actually do it or they actually get there. A lot of times people think that they're just gonna like go across life and coast it, but they don't realize that the people in front of them aren't coasting at all. They're actually going really fast, and you being behind them, you need to slow down and realize that they're under a tremendous amount of pressure from a whole bunch of different governments that literally don't like them, and are the only reason why they're actually making money is because they're hustling. Like they're making ends meet, basically. So a lot of scientists basically make ends meet. They trade, they do a bunch of different things, they do a bunch of different stuff, they say things that they don't mean to make money, and do things in ways to make ends meet, to basically pay their bills. And while they're writing an amazing paper on thermonuclear or thermo stabilizations, stabilizations and everything like that. And a lot of times people don't realize is that the power level of most radiation is not what you need it to be at, or nuclear waste is not what you need it to be at. And by switching out some electrons, or not switching, but stabilizing the equation, or stabilizing the matter itself, by making that, you make kind of like an energy source. So you make a recyclable power source. But also, in the same sense, there are people on the other side of that say we don't need to use it for power because we have this or that. And then there's this argument that happens that hits society with like 1,000 times the force they would have ever actually hit anything else. And people go confused. They get confused. They get confused. That's it. They just get confused, and they get excited sometimes, and over things that are just menial. And I think that people don't realize is that being afraid of a panic was not the first thing that people should have actually even realized. It's more like countries don't want other countries knowing about our stuff. Countries, they don't, because they're afraid that it might kill off some endangered species. They're afraid it might kill off some endangered plants. They're afraid that some regions aren't readily prepared to be able to understand, nor even contemplate their own societal change. And they believe that a lot of times they should be what's the word? They should be like making something new, or like making something to entertain, or making something to do something. Like basically that's what a lot of different comedians are. They're not like criminals or crazy people. A lot. They act crazy, but only to appeal to the lowest common denominator. And a lot of times what people don't realize is that was terrible. That was very terrible. I feel very bad about that. I have 4 bullets left. I hit him once, so he needs to not heal in order for me to get him again. So I gotta get in this window. Here he is. Got him. Yeah. All right. 12 gauge. Okay. Most of the time, I think people don't realize that that any of that stuff is actually feasible. They just think that they're going to keep on going, like the meme that says, when it's 2099, I'm still going to buy my son or daughter a 1999 Honda or something like that, or a Civic, or Honda Civic. That in itself can be damning to a lot of different economies, and that in itself being represented as what maybe the handful of people think, there are a lot of reasons why that stuff is like not feasible, and people can get caught in a certain crossfire sometimes, and oh shit, there he is, and hopefully he doesn't see me, doesn't see me. Dang it, man. Alright. I'm gonna keep on keeping on. A lot of times I think that people don't realize that they're even that there are even things that they can figure out. Sometimes people just lose hope and they don't realize anything, and they become the craziest people you can imagine because they all lost all hope and what the future holds or something like that, and they become very desperate. And but most people who are actually very desperate, they have good hearts, and they have good minds, and they're more useful than they think. So that's my hour, basically. So thanks, Bill Capper, for staying with me again. And the 13-year-old boy wonder. I didn't ask your gender, but it's cool. Have a good day, and you are your own one-person bomb squad. You can diffuse situations that you think are happening, but if you think they're happening and it's not, realize this: you might need therapy. You might have a little bit of paranoia, and it's not a bad thing to have paranoia. It means you feel something, and that's good. Understandably so. If it goes to homicidal or suicidal thoughts, realize that you need to see a therapist, and you maybe even need to get medication. Have a good day, but don't always use medication for your constant like wants or fears or anything like that. There are certain things you can do yourself to help yourself. But if you feel yourself getting excited too much, or you feel yourself getting overly exerted or something like that, realize that you're not what they say you are. You're not every word that comes out of someone's mouth. So you don't have to remember everyone's everything. You just be yourself and try to show that, you know? And whatever you do, it may be embarrassing at first, but it helped me get stuff off my chest. It helped me feel confident enough to be able to help myself. And that's what therapy did for me. So, have a good day.